So at this point, we're going to, give me 1 second. So Michael, we just went over and approved the minutes from last month.
That's good.
Okay. You feeling kind of tight to come to the table? No one come. So we just approved our minutes, and now we're moving into just some updates and reports. So first I wanna go ahead and open it up to an update on Black Enterprise Conference.
The work plan, and the minutes from last month.
So, is anyone here that can give us an update on the Charlotte trip for the Black Enterprise Conference? that took place?
Danielle is going to present that. She may be parking now.
So, looking at the updates and reports, and again, guys, thank you so much just for your flexibility. I know we're in a different space, so it's gonna feel a little wonky and just kind of, out of order, but please just bear with us and we'll get through it. Right.
Yeah.
Before we actually open up to updates, I do see two members here that weren't here last month, who are new.
Yep.
So we want to just kind of really brief, just welcome you to the fold. If you want to just say hey and your name.
Hi, I'm Danielle Martin. I've lived here for 8 years, so that's thank you, darling. Do we have the Wi-Fi? No, that's okay.
The city has a wireless Wi-Fi.
No, that's okay. I'm just taking notes.
And go ahead.
Lived here for about 1 year. I go to UNC Asheville.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. And just to kind of update those that came in a little later, once we started the meeting, we went over the June minutes and approved those. There weren't any corrections needed. And now we're looking at the agenda for today. We're in the update on Black Enterprise Conference. And I would like to open the floor up to Ms. Danielle, if you are ready to give us.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. Update on Black Enterprise Conference. So,
Sorry.
So I went to the Black Enterprise Conference as one of these, I don't know how much do you know about? Okay.
Sorry.
And 7 week plan. All in all, we're going to stay warm and stay active. I'll show you one of the sports.
More than active. It's like, you got off. I'm like, hey, how are you?
Sorry, I apologize.
So, Kimberly Archie, Rosanna Mulcahy, the two of them went with 10 scholarship winners for the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurship Conference this year. There were 1,200 attendees. It was a pretty fantastic conference. And so it was basically an education of what you should, a lot of shortcuts, a lot of information on what you should be doing as an entrepreneur. The most inspiring thing I think I would say about the weekend was that there was, it felt very much like camaraderie. It felt like all the people that were there were like your aunt or your uncle, your cousin. They were like, let me tell you this, and stop wasting your time doing that. So it was really an awesome experience to be in the company of 1,200 Black entrepreneurs. that, like, just that piece by itself was amazing. And the information they gave was really inspiring, and it actually brought a new lens to the way that I look at my business and ways that I can earn money on basically the information that I have and have accumulated over my 50 years of living on this planet and working in the wellness industry. So I was really inspired. It gave me more hope for early earning potential with my business than waiting until later. And if there are any questions, please ask if you have them, but it was an awesome opportunity. The other thing that was great about it is going down there with other entrepreneurs from Asheville. So it was a way for us to get to know each other better, because we might know each other by what we do and rooms we've been in, but to actually have a personal relationship with other entrepreneurs and hear about their struggles or their gains or things they've experienced was really great. So I'm looking to keep in contact with those other entrepreneurs that I went there with, and kind of, like a support system, like how you doing on those things that you said you want to work on and things like that, and check-ins. So that's nice to have a circle of accountability and a circle of inspiration. So yeah, if you need more, you want more.
No, that's great. We can just open it up for some questions if anyone has any.
Where did you say it was held?
It was held in Charlotte, so the idea of bringing us there was actually the city manager's, because she is from Charlotte, and they had that conference there last year. So she thought it would be a good idea for us to go this year.
How many, well, I was just wondering how many people from Asheville went with Nicole?
There were 10 scholarship winners, and then I call them chaperones. Rosanna and Kimberly Archie brought me classes as well.
Was there any presenters at the conference who talked about, being able to do contracting, insurance, anything of those natures, especially those are issues that a lot of our Black business owners have?
Yes, that I believe those would have been breakout sessions that were in the supply chain panels. I did not personally attend those because that wasn't my field of interest for what I do, but that was actually a really good part. The last day, Saturday, there were local businesses from just Charlotte, not like the national crowd that came there for the rest of the week, but on Saturday it was all Charlotte business owners. There were people there from the local airport, the international airport there, so it was really good information. It was probably one of the best conferences I've ever been to. I discovered a lot of new people to follow on Instagram and Facebook that share really great information. Yeah, it was an awesome experience, and I would like to definitely go there, not next year, but in a couple of years.
So great. So when you applied for the scholarship, did you have a lot of knowledge about the minority business program prior to going to Charlotte?
I will say this. So I was aware that it existed. I had started a relationship with Brenda Mills, who held that position before, but I feel like maybe because my business is more service oriented, and not really a business that has a lot of businesses that actually exist in Asheville. There weren't really a lot of areas of opportunity for me. So I did meet with her, regularly, and we had great conversations, but it never really went anywhere. And part of that is also because my business wasn't completely formulated and thought through at that time. So, but now it is. So, it's definitely a much better position for me to have a relationship with the office.
What is your business?
I have a business that I just started. I quit my job in February and I started the business in March. It's called Danny Way Yoga and Wellness. I'm a certified yoga instructor and I've been that for about 13 years. So my business, it's about yoga and wellness, but it's also about culturally appropriate healing, which is something that is very necessary around communities. I've been studying metaphysical sciences and alternative medicine for about 25 years. So this is one way that I can showcase all my knowledge and share healing that I've taken from working in New York and Los Angeles and bring it to Asheville to provide some healing for our communities here.
One last question for me, Danielle.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great experience. I was wondering if, off the top of your head, do you remember how many of the folks that went down from Asheville are folks that can have businesses that can bid with the city as far as contracting or service oriented, like, or how many said that they might have plans on bidding with the city in the future?
Well, Keenan went, and Keenan has a position. Isn't he in this?
He works for Buncombe County.
Yeah,
He's the supply
okay.
diversity person for Buncombe County.
But I would say maybe, so not with the city of Asheville. I can't really.
Cause I know Mr. Muckelman was one that went down. I know he owns a service. He has a service business.
Are you talking about Taekwon?
Take
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was wondering like how many folks like him maybe went down to where they could provide services to the city, if they wanted to be it.
Regina Colwell,
Yeah.
Taekwon, Stephen Smith. You, since we're gonna be working
Yeah.
together. Who else went?
Lynn Michelle, Jason
Lynn
Muhammad, Jason
Michelle,
Muhammad,
Jason Muhammad.
Gene Edison.
Gene Edison, his wife.
My last question is for Danielle.
Yeah.
Just with your experience going, do you think the right people got the information to go to Charlotte, or could there have been some more marketing efforts to reach more people?
I really couldn't speak to any marketing efforts. I basically found out about it from a few places, but most directly from Rosanna. She sent me an application. So yeah, but I would definitely say that is probably a good question for a lot of opportunities in the city of Asheville. Getting the information to people that can take advantage of it. So I think that's an ongoing question that we're looking to answer.
Are there any more questions for Danielle pertaining to the Charlotte conference? Well, speaking of Rosanna, we're just gonna go right on down the list of our agenda. And now would like to open it to Ms. Rosanna Mulcahy, and we're gonna talk about the business inclusion program and receive an update from Jade Bendis. And Jade, when you speak, if you could just give us a little background of who you are.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, Rosanna.
Okay, so, since the last time I met with you guys, we changed the name.
I'm sorry, we do have new members.
Oh.
If you could just
Okay.
briefly give, your role.
Yeah, so I was hired, about 15 months ago as the Minority Business Program Manager for the city of Asheville. During the time that I was hired, there was a disparity study going on. And, that's when I started working for the city. So now, some of the work that we're working on was, one of them was to change the name of the program. I didn't feel that the word minority and the word program was beneficial to the work that I'm doing. I feel that, and I don't want to offend anyone, that anytime that a Caucasian male needs something, the laws are changed to benefit the wealthy and the Caucasian population, and when the African American or the Latino, as I am, needs something, they create programs. So we are putting to programs, Caucasian people are given law changes and stuff. So I felt that a good way to start was to taking out the stigma of Latinos and African American needing programs. So now we are the Asheville Business Inclusion Office. And it's office because I do have an office, and that's my office. So that's one of the things that I was able to accomplish. Another thing was, for the first time, and thank you to all of initiative, I received some funds for the first time since the minority business program ever existed. So I've got about $60,000 to provide capacity building and do some work that I want to do specifically with the African American community. One of the projects, I hate to call it project, but we haven't named it yet, is it's a project with Cortina Colwell. Cortina Colwell and I will be facilitating a group of 5 to 6 African American business owners through a 13-week conversation. And Danielle will be providing resiliency, trauma training, targeted towards, right, like stuff because of racism and stuff like that. She can talk to it a little bit better. So it's a 13-week project. During that time, we want to address what are the barriers to contracting with the city. We think that some things are barriers, but we need to hear from the community. Also, how do we better outreach the community? How can we market to them in a more equitable way, in a way that it can actually reach them? Like when you were asking, how do we get the people to go to the conference? It was from a list that I've been compiling since I came to work for the city. I also had a list that Keenan Lake shared with me, and I used some of those names from there too, because if it was related to kind of something like the city can contract with. So that's how we were able to do outreach. I also posted through Facebook pages, COFE, the African American Business Association, African Americans in Business, all those Facebook pages. It was posted on all those pages. So, and that only rendered about 12 applications, and we needed to take 10 people. And I did direct phone calls to people. I sent applications to others, and we only got 12 applications out of all that work, 12. And we were gonna take 10 individuals, and so to me, it's like I want to know how to reach the community better. That's one of the things that we're trying to gather from this work, and also how do we start healing so we can move forward, and that's where Danielle comes in. So that's supposed to start next week, and we've had a few bumps, but we hope that everything is going to be okay, and we'll be able to start. Also, I have I'm not reading all this. We're also working with the, sorry, I have an accent, so as you can tell, Center for Government Excellence at Johns Hopkins University. We're working to develop data. Some of the talking points they said that I should say is that treat data as a strategic asset, create buy-in among key stakeholders, connect data management to organizational goals, deliver data from those who have it to those who need it, aggregate and organize data for analysis and dashboarding. So we're going to be working with them. Jade is also part of this group. So we're going to be working with them, I believe, for the next 6 months.
Yes.
About 6 months, to make sure that we bring accurate data. And Jane, I spoke with Jane today, and she said that if anyone in this group has any questions, that she can help with, and that can help enlighten and move forward the process, that I could give you her information, and you're welcome to contact her.
Is that Jean Patton?
No, it's Jane
Eva?
Eva,
Yeah,
from
she's
the
in contact with the.
Center for Government Excellence at Johns Hopkins.
I'm having J.J. Cooper. This morning, I went to the YWCA, and I just read the history on their wall. And it sounds like we were traveling the same road. I would encourage people to go to the YWCA and Principal. Just read the history on the wall. And even some of the same buzzwords are still there from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, on up until today. And the buzzwords are there also. And the same kinds of data collection is there as well. And maybe we can learn something about whether or not we're just doing the same thing all over again.
That's what we're trying to figure out, and that's why we're asking for input from the HRCA.
I would encourage you to go to that building and just read the history on that wall. It's like 5 walls, really profound.
The last time we were all together over in Southside, one of the things we discussed with your officers was performance metrics attached to certain things. I wanna know, has that issue changed? Are there performance metrics? Because we were able to levy $60,000, and we would like to know that that money is gonna be used in good faith. I'd like to see some results off of that money. So are there gonna be some performance metrics, or what metrics are you gonna use to ensure that, that $60,000 is being, used into the best form and being spread across the community in the best way? And to see, because if it works well, that can be taken before city council again. But we have to be able to know and have some type of strategic way to look at that, to be able to know how to better, not just help just your office, but folks within the community as well.
Absolutely. That's why we're working with them to see what data can we collect and how we're gonna collect it. And the budget just passed, so it's been 18 days today since the budget passed, so none of those funds have been used for me to give you any metrics as of right now.
And so you've already designed the program that you're gonna use, is that pretty much it?
We haven't finished that process
Oh,
yet.
and it's gonna be an RFP led, is that?
We're thinking about it. To be honest, there's a big nonprofit that does capacity building specifically for communities of color and women.
What nonprofit
Is
is
it-
that?
And it's called Interrise.
Is it local?
No, it's not local.
Hmm.
And it's used in Charlotte, it's used all over the United States for governments to train individuals on how to procure with, it's specifically for that, to procure with government agencies and stuff like that. That's one of the things that we've been looking at.
Can we look, we're gonna hold public, we're gonna.
And we're talking if we do an RFP process or not.
Is it legal though? Remove certain thresholds, dollar thresholds, they have to be met.
But we could put an RFP.
You could put an RFP, but if it's a certain amount of city funding, it must be let. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, a lot of us are. So, yeah, we look for that.
What data and information are you needing at this junction? We paid $300,000 for the study. So we had the study, it was an exhaustive process. All of us here have reviewed it and others in the community. What information is lacking at this point that we need to continue to analyze? I mean, it's not that complex. The city has done an abysmal job with contracting across the board. For 2 decades, we've been talking about this. What is lacking at this point that you need more information about?
Will to do it.
We're gonna
Because
try to
that's
keep
what-
talking one at a time. Michael Bacote has.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's where I feel, is that I have heard this for a very long time. And it's always, we need more data, we need to do more research.
Okay, so the
That's where
research
the big
said,
thin here, I think,
the
is not
research
really.
said that in 10 counties, the research that we paid $300,000 for said that in 10 counties, there were only 13 African American owned businesses who could do business with the city. I don't believe that. I'm out in the community, I know that there are a lot more businesses that can do business with the city. So that's the data I need, as an example.
Just,
Wait, so do you feel like that your question is being answered, Michael? Or
no, it's not. That's wholly unsatisfactory to me. I'm sorry, I know that you're new in the position, it's been less than 14, 15 months. That's just not gonna fly with me when the city, I mean, it is difficult to train that is not there or create what is not there. I get that. I do think there is a dearth of Black service providers here. I get that. I don't think it really needs any more additional study. At this point, what do we have now? How does it fit in with what the city can provide today and move on? We're gonna spend 5 more years trying to develop something that may never even exist here. I mean, that's where I am. So sometimes you just have to start the process and work with what you have and go from there. This business of we want to develop and we need more research and with all due respect, that day has come and gone. And it's just unacceptable, I think, to this commission as a whole, that this is where we're gonna start off again, more research, more data collection. Let's analyze the data once we started doing something. I might go for that. But no more of this business of, oh, we just want to get some more information and some more conversation. What is the conversation? I want discussion and some debate and some dialogue about how to move this forward. This conversation stuff is cocktail party business. It doesn't yield anything. Discuss what? We know what the problems are. Give me some tangibles. And we can debate them and see if they work or not. I'm fine with that, but this conversation business and teach-in moments and hand-holding, count me out. And I think you can count the majority of these commissioners out on this as well.
Thank you. Rosanna, did you need to respond before we move to other
Well,
questions?
because we're collecting extra data doesn't mean I'm not doing my work, or it doesn't mean that the city's not working to affect policy in a positive way. It doesn't mean that I'm not out there talking with African American business owners, trying to engage them in the process. That doesn't mean any of that. So we're talking about two different things here.
And I do wanna stress that, far too long, we have not had opportunities like this to voice our opinion.
Oh, yeah,
and use our
absolutely.
voice. So please don't feel like you're being attacked.
No, I mean,
Personally or
I completely
professionally.
understand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I know Ms. Betty has a question, but I just wanted to go back to Mr. Jones because you were saying something and.
I'm gonna be quiet, I'm okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Ms. Betty?
So I don't have a question, I want to address what Mr. Jones said, because I agree with him and Michael, and the point is not necessarily about the black businesses in particular, but about data. Data is being collected. I am totally interested in what the data shows. But we know that the data has shown that in business and every area of life in the black community in Asheville, North Carolina, the black community is worse. And if we're going to continue to collect data that shows it is worse, and continue to collect data that shows that it's worse, sir, I know it's not a word, and it's worse I'm a teacher, I know it's wrong. You get my point? I want to stress that it's getting worse and worse.
Every day.
And collecting data is not going to make it happen. Like Michael said, and I agree, we have to start doing some tangible things to make changes. Collecting more data is not going to do it. Whether it's for business or whatever area of work it is in Asheville in particular. Every area of life, we're worse. In the nation in North Carolina, and in the nation in some areas. And that's not unacceptable. So I don't want to see another statistic, another point of data. And I definitely don't want anybody to pay for it using my tax dollars, because we know it's bad. Let's work on fixing it. Doggone it.
Thank you, Ms. Betty. I have no myself. Jade has some.
Well, I don't wanna disrupt the discussion, but, one of the action steps in the equity action plan was to develop a procurement policy, to modify the procurement policy, very, very action oriented for purchases under $30,000. That's what I came to discuss. We've also expanded that to professional services in, under the $50,000 category. So it'll be a different way of going out to procure services. And so I'm prepared, that's what I came to talk about. So, but certainly don't want to distract.
So before we get into that piece, we just wanna make sure that we kind of have closure with the update that Rosanna was given. And I know that Tanya had a hand up, did you?
I do have a question.
And this pertaining to
To this action, the disparity study, is that?
Yeah.
Hi, Rosa. Hi, Tanya. Nice to meet you. questions that came up, in regards, and one of the things that I keep on hearing come up is, outreach and the lack thereof, and there's almost like a vacuum of outreach. And one of the things I've heard was, there's, maybe like an effort, a one-day effort of putting things out from what I've seen, and I haven't really seen a lot, so, and I'm on these groups and I haven't seen any of it. So maybe there's like a one-day effort, maybe if somebody puts up a post and then they go, oh, nobody showed up. When things like that need to be done every day. And, I put on events, and I put on events, and I just had an event. And I was posting every day on that event, so that people, that post would go right up to the top of that group. I would comment on my own event. I would encourage things like that. So within outreach, there's passive outreach and there's active outreach. And in passive outreach, you put in an ad in the paper and you go, all right, that's what we did. And with active outreach, you're putting on a party, you know, or an event for people that make $30,000, so that the city has the people there. So say somebody needs to, and the example was, you know, say somebody, you know, is used to buying pens from John, right? And you have this event where it invites the companies that make $30,000 or less, or what, you know, you have an event, invite all of those people to the event, and now the city has options of people that maybe sell pens, right? So instead of going with John, who they've gone with for 25 years, maybe Jose is there. And so the next time the need for pens comes up, they go, oh, well, we've been using John, but let's try Jose. But had they not had that event to bring in the population, the community, in an active way, how would people know how to acquire people or how to connect with people in the community? And that is one way to use that money for good. And that's like an hour kind of a thing. You provide coffee, nibbles,
Yeah.
you have people come in, and you have you can look at the data of who is in the community making that amount of money. You can have them come in specifically, and it's just an idea of how to involve people of color in the community in that way. Just wanted to throw that out there as far as active and passive outreach and the importance of knowing the difference of that.
Can I comment on that?
Please.
Okay, so what I heard was, I heard you talking about advertising every day on Facebook and making sure that, you know, you do it more than once, right? And then I heard the idea of having a 1 hour community event, right? So those are two different things. Like actually having the community event, yes, but still the question of outreach wasn't answered in that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't hear how you're still gonna get to the people, tell them that this is happening.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, so more active
Okay.
outreach, I think, would actually be going into the community.
So I do more than just post on Facebook. When I'm driving around town, I mean, I take pictures of, I don't even know how to drive. I take pictures of businesses. I'm out in the community, I'm eating at a restaurant, and there's someone who looks like they own their own business, and they're specifically African American or Latino. I approach them, hey, do you own your own business? Can I have your business card? I pick up the phone book, I call people, I mean, and then I ask them, do you have someone that you work with that you can recommend, and are they African American or Latino? And then they tell me, and then this is how I do the process. I just don't post something and say, well, if someone replies, it's good. If someone doesn't reply, that's not good. No, I actually, and it takes more than a day, and it takes more than an hour.
Pardon me, I don't want to disparage what you're already doing.
I mean,
I just want to bring in a suggestion that came up when I was talking with my mom, who's been doing this for 30 years.
So to me,
So
it's
that's
like,
not- that's it.
that's why I'm here, to know more how, if you have a, like, I know Miss Betty has a list that I've heard, you know, and I would like to sit down with Miss Betty and talk about that list. I mean, I have a list that Keenan has, and a lot of the businesses are lifestyle businesses that the city unfortunately cannot contract with. Well, I wish we could, but we can't. We have no need for a hairdresser, you know, and so those are some of the issues that I'm encountering. So
I have okay, so let me just be real honest. I appreciate and I hear everything that's going on, but I see a black hole in this situation. One of the black holes is we keep contracting with out of area contractors, like this nonprofit out of Charlotte. We're letting all of our funds and all of our resources go to other cities when we have people here in this city who are viable for this work.
which,
You said that you have a nonprofit, it's Intersize.
oh, it's not from Charlotte, it's from Boston.
Boston, okay, that's even further away. Okay, so this is my issue. We have people here in this community within Buncombe County who are viable for this work, who can do this work. And if we're gonna be spending taxpayers' money, our taxpayer money needs to be spent around our own community. You know, charity begins at home. So if we're gonna be talking about creating a minority business enterprise here in Asheville, if we keep contracting with out-of-town folks, how does that help our minority businesses? That's where my question is at. We keep doing this over and over in Asheville. We have people who come here from other places to get jobs, that people here are viable to have. This is what we have a conflict within our communities here with, because it seems like folks here are always overlooked, not because they don't have the talent nor the skill. It's simply because, and it's not because of the outreach, it's because they're simply being overlooked. And at the end of the day, we have to call it what it is. And what it basically is that sometimes we as our own selves, we can cut off our nose to spite our face. And that's what I see the city of Asheville doing over and over and over again. And I'm concerned that if we keep going outside of the area to look for talent, what happens to the talent that we have here?
It's gotta go.
We need to really stress, for one, the time, and for two, this is an update. So,
Exactly.
Rosanna, along with what you're hearing, is also comments, so please feel free to follow up.
Yes, absolutely.
I really need to open the floor for Jade so that we can get to Ms. Williams and her presentation.
And I'll be real brief. Jay Dundas, Capital Projects Director. I'm also part of the interdepartmental action team addressing contracting and procurement. So this conversation is very helpful for us to be able to develop anything that we're doing in an appropriate way, in the right way. One area that is, again, very specifically identified in the equity action plan that was developed last year, that was followed up and confirmed by the disparity study, was need to look at our ability and our flexibility to contract with within the area of contracting that we have the most opportunity for flexibility. So any contracts under $30,000, anything over $30,000 has a pretty substantial state mandate. We have to follow state statute. That is also applicable for professional services over $50,000. It's a very distinct process that we have to follow. But anything under that, we have a lot more flexibility. And so being able to take advantage of that opportunity to be more flexible, and when we look at the contracting community, and in that case, that could be minority women-owned businesses, that could be local minority women-owned businesses. That is our opportunity to be most flexible with our outreach and our contracting. And so we're working on a draft on a policy, which is basically just formalization of things that we have at our disposal right now. We can seek services with minority women-owned business consideration as of today. We can stay local within this threshold. Outside of those thresholds, that's again the state statute area. But what we're trying to do is formalize that activity. So bringing that into a formal document, policy, practice, procedure, whatever it ends up being. What we're envisioning is that a certain amount of outreach. So typically, what we'll see when we go out for services, let's say it's plumbing services, we'll want 3 quotes. And so, what we're envisioning in the future is that a certain percentage of those quotes, but we will require staff, when the contractor's available in that field work, that they'll be required to reach out to, some percentage of minority and women-owned businesses. The Equity Action Team, or Action Plan, it identified specifically that we need to focus on Black-owned businesses under that 30,000 threshold. We can also, we're proposing that we have another criteria that says that a set percentage of those outreach solicitations quotes come from African-American owned businesses. So there's a lot of flexibility. That's the proposal right now. That's the direction we're heading. Really the contractor availability, any opportunity we get to know who's out there to do that work is helpful to us. It's helpful to everybody that is procuring these services. And right now, our way of, so essentially what we're gonna require is that every person seeking services will access the data, the information available about contractors. Right now, our best resource for a complete contractor list is the Business Inclusion Office. We are also working on, which was part of the Equity Action Plan, a centralized database that everybody will have access to, that we can go to understand who our available contractors are they a minority or women-owned business, and their location. That's a local outreach from a standpoint of physical, literal outreach to contractors for soliciting quotes. And then beyond that, we're also have this week found out information that we can use our financial management system to collect the information to monitor the success of any outreach efforts, any child policy changes. So if we make a change, we're going to be able to collect that information. And this is a post change. This is not another study to see where we need to go. This is we're hopefully heading in a positive direction and reflecting information about our efforts there. So we'll be able to use that information, that system to monitor our progress.
Before questions, I want to make some adjustments to the agenda. So I'd like to open it up that we pull off the work plan so that we can stay on this subject here, just for the sake of clarifying some questions and for any confusion that may be coming up pertaining to this subject. So if I can have a motion to go ahead and take off the work plan until next month so that we can continue this conversation.
I second that motion.
All right, thank you. Now, questions? Mr. Jones.
Help me out here. Is there a person in the city whose job requires that they move that number of minority contractors? Is there a person that's responsible for that? In other words, if they don't do it, then their job is in jeopardy. Is there anybody in the city that has that?
This policy revision.
Yes or no?
There's no specific person.
No, that says it right there. That's why it doesn't happen.
Thank you.
That's why it doesn't happen.
Okay. My concern is this commingling of women and minority. The city has allowed the state by hiding behind white women and getting contracts, many of whom are really owned by their husbands. So I need some real differentiation. We need, now, if you, ethnic minorities, by virtue, are gonna cover Black women and Hispanic women. White women are hardly an oppressed demographic in this city. And I don't think and I think it's creating an illusion of, oh, our numbers weren't as bad, but when you really broke it down, and the number of white women who were getting contracts for services was far outweighed people of color. So the emphasis has got to be ethnic minority. Can't go back to this business, women and minority. Women are the majority of the population, okay? Yes, we still have some issues there and some things that need to be addressed in terms of gender parity. But I'm talking about race first. It can't be gender and sexual orientation, not interested. Race first, that has got to be the metric that the city uses. Ethnic minorities getting contracts for services, and not just contracts for services, employment with the city. And employment with room for growth. And I'm very pleased that Deborah is here. I'm ecstatic that Richard is back home. But those two positions don't do it. You know, so it's got to be, you know, opportunities for doing business with the city and opportunities for working with the city. Those have got to be handled simultaneously.
Thank you. So I would like to open it up for anyone who has not had a chance to speak or who has a question pertaining to, what we're talking about right now, the disparity and the plan to move forward.
Yeah, one of the things I've thought of since we did a training on the study and there was a meeting after that, one of the questions I have is just whether, I guess the current budget, the current resources allocated for your department, compared to the responsibilities of your department in terms of looking at internal city contracts. I guess I'm just wondering if, are we really doing enough by, you know, looking at outreach, looking at data collection without actually developing new minority businesses? And I kind of understand that that's something that your department is not really able to do with just one person there. And that's kind of the thing I see looking historically, that the city's minority business program has always just been one person. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, if what would you do if there were more resources allocated for your department?
It would be amazing if there were more people. I do a lot of things besides outreach to the community. When a contract comes in or a bid comes in, I check for compliance, that if it's a prime contractor, that they really did try to do outreach. I do that by contacting. They're supposed to send a list of everyone that they tried contacting, and they weren't successful. I contact every person on that list. I ask them, were you really contacted? Or at least I leave a phone number, a message saying, hey, call me back if you weren't contacted. I ensure that the primes are doing what they say they are. I attend pre-bid meetings, meaning that I explain to people how to fill out the paperwork, how to contact me in case they are not able to find a business that they can subcontract with that falls under what I'm looking for. African Americans is our biggest target, our priority, right? As of right now, it's my priority. So that's what some of the things that I do. I also review, before the bids get put out, I review all the bids to make sure that the documents that are in there are correct. So it's a lot of compliance. Also, right now at the end, at the beginning of August, middle of August, I need to compile a report of dollars spent, and that's something that gets presented to PED. I don't even know what PED stands for.
Economic development.
Yeah, so it gets presented to them, so that, because of the way the system has worked in the past, it can take me on and off working for 2 months to just get that. Then I put events together. We did one with Keenan Lake not long ago. We put events, we do trainings. I want to start taking businesses that are at the hobby level per se, and turning them into actual businesses that they can contract with the city. I would love to have a cohort of 10 African Americans that the city pays for to become licensed plumbers, licensed electricians, licensed general contractors, licensed HVAC, but they need to have the experience, and then we could bring the classes. I mean, that's how I envision the work that I do happening and really creating an impact in the community. But with limited resources and limited like me, it's difficult. So I I do as much as I can. I do other stuff, like the Community Capital Fund, that takes a lot of time from me, you know, so, yeah, so that's some of the things I see.
Well, before Ms. Betty can have her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Ms.
Thank
Betty.
Thank you, Rosanna, I appreciate what you're doing. The next thing I want to say is that, do you have a one sheet or a couple of sheets that outline everything that someone needs to have in order to receive a contract? It'll be helpful to have like, just a bulleted point, checklist of things to do with all the applications, all the documents they need, and information about how to complete the documents. That would be helpful. If you had that on your website or create something similar to that.
There's something like that, but the process is in the middle of changing, because we're doing a vendor self-service portal where people will be able to register themselves in, and that'll make it easier.
Okay, so we
No,
need in the black.
local, actually.
Yeah, that's what I do.
In the black community, some people are not computer savvy, internet, I have internet, we need a document. And if you have a document like that, that would be great. The other thing is, mentioning, people must have experience. When I was teaching, it just drove me crazy working with people trying to get jobs, and they say you have to have experience. And you just got your foot in the door, you can't, no one will give you a job until you get experience. How are you going to get experience if no one gives you a job? So, and this is not the last thing, but the only thing I'm gonna say at this time is, on the point about, communication and engaging with community and providing information. I have information. I have created a document, and I should have brought it, but I will make sure that I send it out and share it. And it's a way for people, not only this committee, but any city official, any group in the city, in the world, who wants to connect with the black community. There's some ways you can do that.
Okay.
And I can't believe that people go, how can we talk? How can we do this? But I have some bullet points, and I will definitely share
I
that.
would appreciate that, thank you.
I have one, and I do apologize, for speaking in my
No,
presence.
what?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what we're gonna do is we're gonna allow public comment, since we're, just so we can go on public comment on each area instead of having public comment at the end over vast things so that.
We're gonna have an election today.
Yeah, that's what I was doing, and we still have another
I'll have to
presentation.
do it before 7.
Okay, so I just wanna say that there are some of us who made black and minority business development our lives, and we've been very successful. Nobody talks to us anymore. Black people in the community call me up, come by my house, and ask me to help them. And I do a lot of pro bono work. As a matter of fact, when we saved Green's grocery store, convenience store, we didn't get paid a nickel for it, but his heirs were able to sell it. So I'm not even gonna get into the detail of that. Had it been not for Karen Craig Nolan or Riverlink, that business would have gone down. And that was the largest black business in Asheville. I ought to know, cause our packages was a $2 million deal years ago. From the land, the equipment, working cap, all of it. So we don't get, those of us who are successful, who know and who have street cred and also credit know-how in terms of loan packaging, in terms of teaching them how to bid, which they don't know how to do, by the way. And it doesn't come from a book, and it doesn't come from a list. This is coming from making money from the city myself, because I am and I was a government contractor. We're talking millions of dollars here. People have to be taught how to do this thing. All the T-havings in the world and all the lists in the world are not gonna do it. They have to be taught. The thing about white people is they grow up in their houses talking about this thing. They have relationships that people who they can call up and start out, and people who can mention them. Relationships in business mean everything. One of the things I've noticed about this city is, if you know how to do something, they'll make people starve to death behind just excluding, and that's not wise. You know, sure, I can figure out a way to eat and I'll make some money. But when you got vulnerable people out there who need help, why would you, because you feel like you don't want to be bothered with some of us who you might not agree with all the time, and sacrifice an entire group of people who are taxpayers? That's what we wanna stop. So at this point, what we've done is, I'd like to put together a consortium with the black churches, and some of them have asked and even donated space and a few dollars. It's called Asheville Business Development Center. We're pushing that to, put together the know-how that we put together when we did Green's Lawn Packaging. When we did, brought the first contract to the city of Asheville from a black firm that we fought to get and got in place. And we wrote this business plan that you operate under right now in this, city and county. So I would say to y'all that I'm willing to work with anybody. We may have to do it ourselves at a grassroots level and start out going back in the community and providing technical assistance. Even if we don't get paid, we're gonna have to start somewhere. So I'll work with anybody. If you've got somebody from a limited standpoint, and I'm in and out of town quite a bit, just trying to chase a buck. But we'll do whatever we have to do. We do have Reverend Grant's giving us space, about 3,000 square over at the church on Choctaw and South Side. I'm willing to do whatever I can so that these people can get to work and we can stop talking about this and produce contract amounts. And we can deliver that. We did it 8 years with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and I myself am a skilled contractor and was a minority business of the year in 9 southern states and Puerto Rico. So please know that the talent is here. If we come together, we can do something, but I really wanna help these people. I'm gonna be quiet.
If anyone is interested, just, you can just funnel your names to me and then we'll get it with Leah and get it to Ms. Williams. But Chris had his hand
I
up.
had a quick question, and I wanna say also thank you for the work you do. I was definitely one of the commission members who wanted to support your work through trying to advise the city council to give some more money. You had mentioned that you contracted with a Boston firm.
We haven't.
You haven't contracted
No,
yet?
we haven't contracted with anyone yet.
But you were thinking about the
We
Boston?
were looking at that, as a possibility.
Okay, do you think that maybe with our reaction, we're gonna revise that and try to look for something local for training,
This is the
trainers who are
first time I
local?
get funding. I don't know how that works. I would have to go and talk to someone. I think that an RFP or RFQ process would be, great. I've spoken to Ms. Dia, I know she's very capable. The money comes to me, but I don't make the decision.
I understand.
So,
But you can see,
yeah, absolutely.
we wanted you to give, we wanted you to have resources, but we also, if possible, want you to keep the spending of those resources in the local community.
Yes.
Definitely not Boston.
Yeah,
Nothing against Boston.
and I do wanna say, and I'm not saying that that's how we're gonna go or not go, because it's, like I said, it's not my decision in the end. I think it's gonna have to be other people that are involved, like my boss, Sam Powers.
No, sir.
No.
Who's responsible?
It probably, the decision about whether it be an RFP or an RFQ would go through our procurement, and they would analyze, but it would have to go into a selection process.
I think you gotta remember that so far there's not one person that works for the city that job is responsible for giving us what we want with the minority contractor. There's not one person that's responsible for that. Okay, you gotta remember that. And we can take that request to the city manager and say, give us one human being whose job requires that they give us more minority contractors. That's very simple. That's very simple.
And that's definitely something that we're gonna be following up on and continue.
So I'm saying, let's ask the city manager to give us that person.
Let's do that.
I'll write it into their job description.
And that goes along the performance metric parts that we were talking about as a board, and this is why we said we need to have performance metrics for issues such as this. But also, we got one more question, but we're gonna also ask that, because Mr. Jones needs to be able to vote, and we do have elections, we're gonna move that, policing, the consent down for one moment, so we can get to go ahead and vote, get that over with. So we can have, officers in, because apparently, we need to get that done, and while it's other essence. So, was it any?
Well, we need to just close out from
yes.
this. Thank you, Rosanna, again for bringing your updates. We would love to kind of see you come back, maybe in September.
Sure.
And also just think about the procurement checklist that Ms. Betty brought up.
Yes.
And, then let's just continue to make some action plans without just sitting around having a conversation.
Absolutely.
So thank you all for that. So at this time, we're gonna open it up to our votes. And if I can just kind of lean into our city staff for some support on that.
Yeah, hey everyone, again, I apologize for the confusion. When I went downstairs, it was a surprise to me too that we did not have the room, so I really appreciate y'all's flexibility and willingness to adjust. To my understanding, I will double check on this after I'm done speaking. I think we can have this space until 7:30 if people would, if that's completely up to y'all, if y'all be willing to, for conversation that continued. For voting, I am going to lean on Brad for support and talking the commission through how to do that effectively so we don't do any redos. But again, I apologize and thank you.
And again, as Brad is coming up, we're doing this because we want to honor Mr. Jones and his other obligations.
Absolutely. So just as a brief overview for your elections, so you've got 2 officers that need to be elected. The term is actually already started because the rules are set up for it to start on the 1st of July. Per the request of the committee, we edited the rules based upon your vote at the previous meeting to add in specifically for both officers that outgoing members have the ability to offer input if requested by the existing committee members. So they cannot vote in this, but they can offer input. I believe that was what was expressed by the committee. So both the chair and the vice chair are up for election. My suggestion would be that you take these one at a time, and the way we normally handle this is that the current chair opens up the floor for nominations for that. A nomination does not require a second. Once you have nominations, if you only have one, you can then vote on that person. If you have more than one nomination, then you will vote individually as a show of hands, i.e. candidate A, candidate B, until someone receives the majority of the voting current membership. And then the same process would be for the vice chair.
Can you do anonymous voting?
You cannot do anonymous voting. And I will also add, because this is a public body, you are subject to the same public rules as city council or other public bodies in the state, which means that a failure to vote means that you have voted yes for someone, okay? So you are required to vote unless you have a reason that you might have a conflict of interest, and if you do, we can address that.
So, are we doing a simple majority where it's just over 50%, or are we doing 2/3?
For this, it will be a simple majority to vote in officers.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Can somebody be nominated again? If somebody's already sitting in that, holding that position, can they be renominated?
A very good question. The answer is yes. Per the rules, they can be renominated.
Okay, so at this time.
And the terms are 1 year, excuse me, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure.
And by that same 1 year, Michael, that is, remember the couple meetings when we was having the discussion and your concern about, offices for 2 years? And just to clarify, it was never 2 years, it was 1 year for
1 year.
offices only, so it's also in our, rules. Okay, so we wanna open it up for, nominations
For the chair.
for the chair and vice chair.
Let's go to the chair.
Excuse me. Okay, so.
Do we have any nominations for chair?
I'm sorry, but this part right here is uncharted territory for me, so please forgive me if I'm a little silly. So we'll just go around? How do
Can we ask if the current people in office wanna open themselves up to renomination?
When you open up the floor for nominations, anyone voting membership can offer a nomination. That person who is nominated can certainly decline to accept those before the vote. So I think it would be up for that person to let you know that they did not want to serve.
Thank you.
Can the vote on the chair be done by the vice chair and the vice chair's vote be done by the chair, so it's not so awkward?
Absolutely.
Yes.
We have one nomination for Tiffany DeBoer for chair. Any other nominations? All in favor of Tiffany DeBoer becoming chair of the HRCA for another year term, say aye. Aye. Show of hands. Tiffany DeBuck, you know, the chair of the HRCA. Oops, I'm sorry. You have a nomination?
No.
Oh. Oh. So, you have a chair?
Have you been in position just 1 year?
Yeah. And I would like to open up nominations now for the vice chair, and I would like to nominate Dolores Venerable as chair.
I accept the nomination.
All in favor?
If we could, just make sure there are no other nominations.
Any
before
other
you-
nominations? Thank you. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? All in favor? Show of hands. All right, congratulations.
Thank you for your vote of confidence, folks.
Well done, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the quickest nomination I've ever seen in the history of America. Okay, too bad politics, you actually think that well. So much.
All right, so we're not adjourned. We still have about 15 minutes or so. The goal was if we can end at 7, that'd be great, but if we go over, that's fine too. And we just wanted to honor Mr. Jones and his other obligations for changing around the agenda with nominations. At this time, we're gonna open it up for, the written consent update from Ms. D. Williams. Ms. D. Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Nia. Thank you for letting me come today. Had not intended to be so vocal or participative in your processes, but these are issues we really care about. My work here, and this, I should not say my work, this work that I do belongs to the community. Everything that we do, even if it's under the banner of the NAACP, belongs to the community. Let me just say that when I took this chore over, we had just finished banning the box with Mission Health. We got that done with the American Association of University Women and some other folks who thought, gee, if you can get the biggest organization in Western North Carolina, Mission Health, to remove that box from applications that would hinder folks from having a job. And let's take a look at what we need to put together. And by the way, my background is such that I'm a demographer, I'm a political economist, and so all of that is to say that I am somebody who is data oriented. And so based on the data that we looked at, not only, we started the data with mission, and that's how we educated them. We find that we take the edge and the controversy off of a lot of issues. You know, you're entitled to your opinion, but you can't necessarily manipulate data to concur with it. So, and it takes a lot of the personalization. This issue, when we're dealing with the police department, is surely one of the most controversial and heated subjects that can come up, particularly when you have to interface with a police department here or anywhere else. So let me just say that I had to come up with a way to put together a team of not only folks who were sort of like me as far as data, but also folks who could perhaps perform a think tank or a group that could appeal to city council. One of the things that I find with a lot of citizens in the South, particularly people of color, is that we do not think that we have anything valuable from a proactive standpoint to input the folks that we elect. And that is quite, the opposite of that is true. Anything that affects the community needs to have data, it needs to be informed, it needs to be taught how to use the data to impact policies that affect their lives. And also, it needs to be used to, the data does, to hold folks accountable. Because if you can't tick off to me the things that matter and they're tangible, touchable things, that means, and that it's impacted people's lives, it doesn't exist. So let me just say that what we did, and I did the research, I found Ian Mance, who is an attorney with the Southern Coalition for Social Justice, and he's a data-oriented person too. He in fact took the North Carolina Department of Justice, the tool that they have, and he basically, the database, and took it to make it more usable in terms of showing consumers and other people who would need to use it, the disparities that are prevalent in policing. So Nia's got, this is who I am, and this is what we did, what we called it, some of the things, one issue is written consent. And this is a no-cost, low-cost way that we took to city council. Councilman Haynes is somebody who's on council, I wanna recognize him as well, who is quite interested in this. This was one of the issues that we brought up, written consent. The other ones was abandoning, stopping drivers for non-safety related, non-moving violations. But this particular one is the one that we settled on to push. This goes back to the Fourth Amendment. Like any other constitutional right, it may be waived. The funny thing about it, it's not even funny, is that most poor folks and black folks and brown folks don't know a whole lot about the Fourth Amendment. And so,
Americans don't.
well, and Americans in general, they really don't. But the thing about it is, when you are what we call through the NAACP born suspect, even though you might know about it, you have an unnatural apprehension about exerting those rights with an authority figure who is fully armed, and you've seen all the stuff on television, and you've probably encountered some folks who are not as hospitable to you, calling your house boss instead of sir or madam or whatever. So a lot of that comes from a lot of cultural issues and I guess historical things as to why we can't exert Fourth Amendment rights, like Miranda, which tells you you have the right to become silent. All of that. Most officers, when they arrest you, will Mirandize you with the Miranda warning. But nobody, they're not mandated to give you Fourth Amendment warnings. If they walk up to your car and they even verbalize, in other words, I know you don't mind me searching the car. The first thing you do is probably go, well, I guess not. That's most people, because they are intimidated. So what we would want, the gist of all of this with these slides, and they're not the sticks, because I want to have input from you guys. Let me just say, and I want to recognize Patrick, because one of the things that we did was we went to Code for Asheville, and because it was a controversial topic, police reform, criminal justice reform, it kind of like Code for Asheville. Codes are all over the country, but this particular code, just like any other, when it comes to the police department, they kind of shied away from it. But Patrick stepped up and said, hey, I got HRCA applications and we'll do whatever we can to help. So he was an integral part of that. And I just want everybody to know that. Let me say one thing about me. I hold no grudges to anybody. If you're wrong, I'm wrong. I'm the first one to hold my hand up and say I'm guilty. But if you're right and you do stuff, hey, I hold no grudges, and you need to be given shine for whatever you do. And so I'm gonna leave that one alone, but I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so you see at the bottom where it says minorities, especially Black Americans, based on data in the history of policing. Do y'all know about the history of policing in the United States?
Slave holders.
Okay, not only slave holders, but they were slave catchers, okay? And a lot of people, modern policing is supposed to be as far away from that as possible. That's why a lot of folks want to see Asheville. And we told the chief here, the previous chief, that we wanted 21st century policing. There's some other stuff that we'll get to when we start digging into the disparities, but I want to do this for Mr. Jones and be as expedient and honor him as much as possible. Could you give me the next slide? Thank you, Mia. Okay, this is a direct statement from the International Association of Police Chiefs, and it's so true. Building and maintaining community trust is a cornerstone of successful policing and law enforcement. That is absolutely true. And the thing about this Asheville Police Department is they've breached all forms of trust. And it started with the top down, as y'all will know. And it continues on to this day. The most recent incident being the manipulation of data into the newspaper last week. And I just don't see why they just won't stop. But anyway, it's as recent as that. Anytime you take numbers and you take them and you aggregate them, and then there's several years, 4 years worth, and you take and add everything up, it just catapults and puts fear out there, and it's all the distortion and the kind of stereotypes that makes people feel like the other. That's what it makes me feel like I'm the other. But anyway, the other suggestions, and I'm trying to move right along here, the climate of trust, and I suggested this, that's okay, it got in here. Our communities need police forces that are held accountable with open data about traffic stops. This data has pertinent facts which are supplied by Asheville Police Department. Now, when they compile these reports, they're required monthly to submit to the North Carolina Department of Justice. There's a general statute in North Carolina and several other states. They must turn it in based on race and demographics, nothing else. The race of the driver, the age, all of that. And so we'll get to that chart in just a moment. But the data sets, all of those, including stops, searches, hits are when contraband is found. even though our neighborhoods are policed at a greater rate, and we're searched more than any other group of people, even Hispanics, basically, we don't come up with contraband being any more than a white driver, but we're still policed that way. We need strong, coherent policies and relevant training. That's the Asheville Police Department. We've asked for that. One of the items that I've seen, and I can't quite get a good answer, and I know we have a police manual, but I have never seen the book, the manual on the website.
It is.
Is it all together in one, is it there? Okay, I'd like to see it because that's what I've been asking for. And there have been pages that have been put out there, but not one manual that we can really take apart and look at. And also the consistent data points, because what they do is that they take data from what they call a crime map, and that's how they justify policing. A lot of the things that they do in public housing is a contract that they have with the Asheville Housing Authority for what? $250,000 a year extra that they get paid from me. A lot of people don't even know this. I pulled the contract up one time, that they get paid from the Asheville Housing Authority to send the unit over. And so one of the things that we would like to see is an examination of those policing tactics that they use to go into public housing. The whole reason behind written consent in any of this is to minimize interaction. When you don't have trained people, you get some variations and some things can go wrong. So one of the things that we'd like to see, and it will help cut down on the disparities, which is why we're asking for written consent, because the data shows that when that happens, these disparities go down, these stops are reduced. The third thing here, and here, just go back one more, the community must lead. That's one thing that we've been left out of. We must lead and play an active role in solving the issues of poverty, guns, social and economic isolation in local poor and marginalized communities. Elected and appointed officials need to provide resources, contacts, social capital, and act to operationalize equity. Operationalize equity is why we have an equity division here. In other words, to put it in everything we do. Written consent, and this is Ian Mance and some other scholars, Frank Baumgartner, is one way to arrive at operationalized equity. And it should be, as far as the tools that we need, everybody has these meetings with people, but the only thing they talk about is community watch. They don't talk about putting money in these poor black communities. This is a result of a lot of years of disinvestment and social and economic isolation. And I think the only way for us to solve our problems is to really talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it because we're resource poor, and that would mean that we'd have to be able to get resources into our communities, and that would be a good thing if we could all get together on that. Nick, could I have the next slide, please, ma'am? Thank you. Here it is. This is Ian's direct paper. If you want to pull him up and Google him, there's a whole, I think it's 2 pages, or a newspaper article about written consent as a tool of racial equity. This is one reason why I went after Ian Mance. Ian Mance is probably one of the top sources as far as written consent and other no-cost, low-cost policies and some social justice on criminal justice issues in the Southeast. Both he and Dr. Frank Baumgartner from UNC Chapel Hill. And Dr. Baumgartner has an excellent book out, and Ian is even cited in Dr. Baumgartner's book, and it just came out like in 2018. Open data policing is a project of the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. And so this is where, when he constructed the database that we got, he made our data usable, and which is why we got him up here. Every year since 2002, the search rates for black drivers has exceeded white drivers by double. And in 2018, the search rate for black motorists was almost triple that of white motorists who were stopped. This is Asheville now. 15.8% for blacks, 7.5% for Hispanics, and 5.6% for whites respectively. In 2018, Asheville Police Department searched a higher percentage of black drivers than any other medium to large sized city in North Carolina, and it's getting worse. Out of 11 of the largest cities in North Carolina, Concord is our next city that's closest to where we are in population, and they were like a third or less of what we were. And more black drivers were out there. Can I have the next slide, please? Because I want everybody. Here they are right here. These are how we stack up. Do you see how we, it's unbelievable.
That's ridiculous.
It is unbelievable. Do you know that if we went to CALEA, the certification agency for the Asheville Police Department, and filed a complaint and showed this data, that they could get their CALEA certification withheld from them? Now, we worked with Chief Hooper and asked that they do better last time. And when we had testified before Kalia, we told them that we had some problems, but this was part of a family and we were gonna give her time to straighten it out. But it's getting worse, the trajectory is getting worse. So that is one thing that we're gonna have to try to look at if we don't get any results.
Is
So this is just
certification still-
abysmal.
Are they still at risk of losing certification?
I'm sorry, say again?
Is the department still at risk of losing certification?
If we file a complaint with
Who's
Kalia,
we?
if the public files a complaint, and they are coming up for certification. Last time we tried to negotiate with the chief, and we in fact showed up to testify. And the numbers were bad in 2017. I think they were over 11% search rate, but it has elevated even upward. The last chief that we had, we could see the numbers ascending all during that chief's tenure. And we were tracking data all of the time, but this is really telling. This data, by the way, I also want to just say that we have a data collection effort on the social determinants of health of African Americans here in Asheville, North Carolina, called the Real Asheville. And in every data set that we've got, we are worse off than any of our black cohorts in the state of North Carolina, including criminal justice, education. Y'all know we made the top 15 worst school systems in the nation. We've outgrown North Carolina. We're out there. Our health is worse, our mortality, morbidity rates. What else? Gosh. Economics, we're just on the very bottom. We also have a specialized data set from the Asheville Housing Authority on every African American who lives in public housing. So that is just, we're normalizing that set right as we speak. It's unbelievable to me, just totally unbelievable. It's frightening is really what it is. And we're gonna have some town halls on these, and we're gonna bring in officials from across the state and the nation who speak to not only policing, but housing and HUD and all of that. But stay tuned for that. We're in probably around the bottom third. We just entered into the bottom third of the normalization of data and developing a tool. We're just doing that now. But please be at the next one, because I want these folks to be able to answer. Okay, here the written consent to search. The devil is in the details. This is where we come in. The last time we looked at what the city council had come up with and the city attorney, it was totally abysmal. Let me say that. In other words, discretion going to the police department. Wherever there is discretion and things done behind closed doors, it never works out, okay? There should be sunshine. We are paying these people. This is our city and this is our police department. And so for you to have it handed over to a new chief who is not even 30 days a resident in the city, we can't have that. This is not what I was looking forward to when we did, and city council voted on this unanimously. So as a spirit, it's not the letter of the law, the spirit of it. It means that folks like us need to be brought in to have input into that whole document, that whole policy. Adopted in 2018. The first time it was adopted, there was some sort of a parliamentary glitch. It was 5-2. Then it came back up and it was unanimous because we did the data thing and Ian was here and it went really well. We need to be allowed to participate in crafting the policy document for written consent. And I talk about the relegation to one public official and with a committee that's behind closed. That never works out for people who are impacted by public policy. We never allowed it to happen. So please do not. In your capacity as a human relations counsel, that is part of your charge. That I believe that is, and as citizens, those who aren't even here. Supervision and accountability. Use data to manage officers' conduct, which demonstrates problems with bias-based policing in traffic and pedestrian stops. We also talked about using written consent in pedestrian stops. When you don't use it in pedestrian stops, I understand what the manager, Manager Campbell said about being incremental. But it smacks of classism to talk about a car versus somebody who's walking down the street with a backpack. And so our initial input wanted it to be not only traffic stops, but also pedestrian stops, because folks have rights, and they're also covered by Fourth Amendment rights too. Okay, the supervision and accountability piece, community policing or social economic containment. In public housing, we'd like to have that to stop. I don't know if the new management is aware or y'all have read their contract, but the way that they police public housing, there's a greater likelihood that somebody else is going to be seriously hurt or killed again. When you've got untrained officers in a culture where it's us versus them, highly militarized and warrior mentality versus a guardian mentality, it's not gonna work. There's something that's gonna happen. So we feel like, the way that they, police their communities, there ought to be, folks who are better trained to deal, if they're gonna be there. But the way that they police it, and I don't know if y'all have seen how they, police, but it's not by census block graph, it's by public housing. And so it's just not, it's arbitrary, and arbitrariness usually, means that you're discriminating. Recruitment and training, more recruitment of black officers from the local population, and reorganization into proactive, data-driven community policing with training and public collaboration. Is that the last one, Nita? I tried to make it really short.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, thank you. Questions now, because I know y'all probably have some. Now take.
We're gonna do Mr. Jones first.
Yeah.
because
Mr. Jones, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Michael.
I don't want you to be late, but anyway.
It's gotten, it's, the numbers of black people as a whole in Asheville are regressing. But the last point that you made, how is the turnover and the levels of attrition in the police department contributing to this? And the starting salary, which is $17 an hour?
Yes.
I mean, we essentially are getting the police department that we're paying for.
That's right.
We have what the police department we deserve.
We want, that's exactly right.
And so, how, we don't have anything consistent. So how do we get to the consistency part of policing? When you have turnover of the percentage that we have, and we don't require, when I was growing up, you used to have to live here.
You have to work for the city,
Yeah.
you used to have to live
So, I mean, how can we work on those policies? Because while I'm fully supportive of written consent, if we have this continued revolving door of officers in and out of, and at the chief level.
That's right.
It's not gonna be sustainable.
That's true, it is not, and thank you for the question, Michael, it's very intelligent. Let me say this, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Ryan, city council, not just because you're in the room, you need to step into your power. Which means that when you've got a non-cohesive policy as to policing, which it seems that when you look at that manual or those sheets that are there, there's a hodgepodge. There's no philosophy about the police department as far as what is the vision, the mission. Do you love the people? You know what I'm saying? How do you feel about who you're supposed to be policing? If you love the police force, you should pay them. And you should be able to get that money, but the other requisite is that you have to demand excellence too, with key performance measures, just like we were talking about. So it may be that this group is going to be the one not only to give a charge to city council, and then council to Manager Campbell, and then Manager Campbell to the police chief. But you may be that entity that says, that brings the moral that what we love, we pay for, and we demand excellence of. Because they cannot treat our people well if they're not treated well. We don't know, last time they had a study, and I think it was 2015 or 16, I don't know if that study, the recommendations were even fully instituted. I think it may need to be revisited again. I don't know what CPAC's whole charge is, or the Public Safety Committee, and Brian is the chair of the Public Safety Committee that oversees the police and fire departments. But we probably need to just really take a look, because what we've got is not working and it is not sustainable. We have chiefs that come in and a revolving door, and one or the other, and I know, you hate to get rid of chiefs and you hate to have a lot of turmoil, but sometimes you have to get rid of chiefs and have a lot of turmoil. Until the vision that this city wants from the community. Let me say this to y'all too, it's our fault too. When they have these meetings about what you want to see in a police chief, a lot of us don't even show up or whatever. Or we don't talk freely, and we don't talk plainly to those people that we elect. And the other thing is, let me say this to you too, we're gonna put together a forum called the Breakfast Forum, whatever. It's not really even a breakfast, it's just a place where people come, and issues that affect the black community, public leaders are invited, and other folks in the community to sort of make them accountable. We have never had a mechanism in our community to make our elected or appointed officials accountable, ever. Not until something drastic happens, like somebody dies, or Johnny Rush or something like that.
So, to answer your question, Michael, we don't have a vision for a community that we've imbued into our elected or appointed officials. They usually tell us what time it is. We never tell them what time it is. My favorite whole thing in the world is saying, we're having a meeting and we'd like for you to come, Brian. And he knows, you know, we're doing participatory budget and we need the finance chief there, and we're taking it to the poorest elements of the black community first before everybody in the city, else in the city gets it. So, and just saying to say that, y'all, we're gonna have to be more participative. And this may be the arm, this may be the organism that does that. Any other questions? I'm happy. Dolores.
One of the things that I was worried about was the language that was in the written consent policy. I wanna know, from, especially since we have a city lawyer here, who came up with that language?
It's a good question. I've only been working with that for a few months, since I've only been here a few months, but this has been something that's been in the works for quite a while. It is continuing to be dealt with and reworked to try to address some of the very concerns that this body is talking about. And I don't want to steal any thunder away from Ms. Campbell, who is, I think, going to be coming to your next meeting along with the police chief, I believe, to actually talk about what the policy is going to be, and hopefully be able to explain some of the changes that we've recently been making to the proposed policy, which I believe hit on some of the ambiguity that has been a problem in the past. So that's been something we've been trying to deal with.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, so, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. One of the things that I don't like about it is that it's been done without any public input. The ambiguities are there, but it also talks about discretion. And when you have written consent, there's no such thing as having discretion. You're either gonna give somebody the form if they can, and let them read it, or if they can't read, you read it to them and you get a signature and they understand that they can refuse a search. So my whole thing is, and I think we've been so passive for so long, we start asking questions we are kind of not understood. But this is a test of public will. It really is. And let me just say that when we started out, much to the credit of the police department, they didn't even want to provide us with data. This has been a long time coming. And Patrick, you know that. I mean, there was none, not for us to see. They said, oh, we don't have, yes you do. Oh, yes you do. So this is a process. And same thing with written consent. If we hadn't pushed this issue before city council, we wouldn't even have this. The policy and the devil, just remember, the devil is in the details, okay? It really is. And so just to say that Manager Campbell and is fine, but they work for us. We do not work for them, okay? And I'm just straight up about it. Don't be timid about it, because what you do is going to impact a whole lot of people. Okay. Any other questions you got? Yes, ma'am.
As a board, how can we help the public get the written consent policy that will better protect black folks, so we don't have any more Johnny Rushes, so we don't have any more, we don't have this triple our population with pullovers, because that's where our data is looking at right now. Right now, the data says that our black population is pulled over at 3 times our population amount. That's what the data says. So how can we help facilitate that?
And thank you for that. One of the things that you need to do is what's happening at the next meeting. I have a draft, I'm sorry I didn't bring it with me, for language on the written consent policy. If you have ideas about that, that should be what they hear about. The idea that we need full sunshine on any public policy because it affects each and every one of us. It may save somebody's life, you know, might even be your own, okay? So please, when you come to the next meeting, just be prepared. Always be prepared, always have data, and always let folks know that you're watching, and that you're voting. Always voting, okay? Please, I have a written consent policy. I can send it to Nia, and y'all can take a look at it. It's modeled after the Carver or the Chapel Hill policy. They do have written consent. And we also include pedestrians in there. I don't know if it's, I understand that they don't want to do that now. But I think that's a class issue too. I'm kind of, I see a lot of folks who've been pulled over, pedestrians who are walking who are getting pulled over. So please be prepared, know what you're talking about, have the data. We'll also supply y'all with the 2017 data. You can see some trend analysis, and you can see it trending upward. So, yes.
Yes, Michael had a question.
And, I'm sorry.
Have we been able to extrapolate like the time of day these stops are happening? And the reason why I'm asking is because the city, you saw parity after dark in the number of black people and white people who were stopped. And so I just was wondering, are we able to kind of definitively kind of see if it's during the day?
Well, that's true.
And after dark.
And that is true, and I'll answer it with this. When you've got a deployment of police forces and you're over policing or policing in a black public housing project, which is over 57% black, what do you think? Okay? Yes, sir.
I would add just on that point, I think in the Frank Baumgartner's book, where he
Yes.
analyzes all the stops in North Carolina, I don't know if anyone's looked just at Asheville, but for the state, when you control for every factor, weather, time of day, all of that, the race is still shown statistically as a determining factor.
Yes,
which is
overall,
why
it's the only one. Anybody else, y'all? And I
We
want
have
to-
Ms. Mia, who has.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
This is, just a general comment, so yes, per Keith, Deborah and the chief, will be coming, for the August meeting. When I get that confirmation, we'll send it out, like if anything changes, I'll be in contact with y'all.
And have it in a room with some air conditioning.
And if y'all, I guess after the August, not after the August meeting, but during the August meeting, after you hear the presentation from the chief and Deborah, if y'all decide that this is something that y'all wanna take on, or whatever that looks like, make sure that you keep in mind, like amending the work plan to add this, adding whatever work groups, subcommittees, those all have to be like motions and voted on. Brad, let me know if I'm missing.
You got it.
That, cool. So yeah, I'll end with that.
Can we get an agenda for that a little bit earlier than
Yeah.
we usually do it? The reason why I'm asking is because I want people in the public so that we individually can be able to post this, because people need to be here to be able to hear, because we already heard one side of the story already. And it's been some, and I want people who have, because a lot of folks are saying, this is not true. And you cannot keep calling a lie the truth every time you see it. So I want all these people to be at the same table so that they can answer to the public about where the truth of the lie lays.
Yeah,
Let me
when,
ask y'all this. Would y'all like to get Ian Mance here to
Yes.
maybe come and make a
I'm
presentation?
sorry.
He's fabulous. He's fabulous.
yeah, when I get confirmation, from Deborah, I can send up the agenda and it's basically done.
Can we also have a space that's large enough to accommodate?
Yeah, and like, this was accidental.
But I know about that, but even on the other space.
So
If they're gonna be a
Yeah.
lot of community members present, we need larger.
Actually, that's really good. If y'all have recommendations of spaces that you, want the August meeting to be, please let me know. We can absolutely move this space, cause I do see it being a lot of public involvement.
You know, Ian's been here about 10 times making presentations before council. We even had a lunch and learn. We've had numerous community input sessions. It went on for 2 years just to get us to this point. So it's been yeoman's work, y'all. It really has been. But I don't think he would turn down, you know, and this is what we do. We love people. We love our people, we love our community. We don't love the people, we cannot serve the people, okay? So that's nothing, but I think, you know, y'all, and Carol very graciously said, they don't really know what all this had took. And you're not really supposed to. I mean, but it's yours to take the mantra now, okay? So you have that opportunity. We just are a resource, that's all we are.
And Ms. Carol, did you wanna just speak to
No, I'm,
CPAC?
yeah, I just support.
Yes, you do.
CPAC,
You speak.
anything?
Put your pocket
This is
down.
not public comment right now, this is.
My boss over here.
She said, put your pocketbook down.
I just would support that there is a history to the work that under Dee's leadership has been done around these issues of written consent for years. And the layers of meetings, the layers of interaction, in some ways tie back to, I think, some of the concerns expressed when you're talking about Rosanna's office. It's the same kind of systemic issues that, from my perspective, as somebody both engaged with many organizations in the city and observing the recurrence of solid community work getting done. And the barriers to it moving forward are pretty extraordinary. And so we went through the layers of steps at the administrative level, at the appointed level, at the elected level, and to find ourselves still. I mean, I admire your tenacity. You and I don't agree on everything, but I admire your tenacity and fully support the fact if this is the body that has more authority to move this kind of policy consideration forward, I would certainly hope that you're up to the task.
Thank you. So before we open up to public comment, I just want to close out and just kind of real quick applause for our updates from the city and for that wonderful presentation. Thank you. You know, this problem didn't get here overnight, and neither will the solution. So keep up the good work. Now we just want to open up for public comment. If anyone would like to speak. Okay, so we do have something on new business that I wanted to open up to Tanya, and then I just see.
Hi, I'm Tanya. I'm an educator, and one of the things that we're looking at was in regards to the disparity, and I met with a few people, I met with Keith, and met with Patrick, in regards to the disparity of what's happening in the policing in Asheville, and found out some really scary things about what's going on as far as their foundations. And when I found out that the policing here, training here is 627 hours of training, and for comparison, cosmetologists need over 1,500 hours of training, I saw the disconnect. So I would like to spearhead a subcommittee to really dive into the investigation of, or the inquiry and possibly shifting local policy change. Maybe I'd like to speak with you as well in regards to what the state legislature looks like as far as the education for the police department here. I saw that you mention that, and it's a passion of mine as an educator. I've been an educator for a long time in adult education, and I teach continuing education for massage therapists. I have over 200,000 hours, over 20,000 hours of 20,000 bodies that I've worked with, and over 2,000 hours of massage therapy training. As you know, to put that into context, people in North Carolina only get 500. So I teach because the things that I have, you know, anyways. So I started to do some, you know, working out what's going on, you know, why are the police, what's the culture, what's going on, and what I found out was pretty shocking. So my vision is to bring in change to the training, maybe even a little bit of a shift in regards to what Asheville is learning here in this town. I want to know if the municipalities in this state have the authority to affect their local police training. I also want to make sure that there is a diversity in the teachers. Right now, it looks like that there's 2 white men that are teaching. I want to have a strong black man in that training, so the moment that the officers sit their butts in the seat, they have somebody representing to them that's a strong person from the community that can teach the officers how to relate to people in the community. And you know, as a person that's from Los Angeles and has seen riots with my own eyes, I know that it is imperative to have cultural relations within the police department. So, yeah, so I'm just
So what I'm hearing you say,
yeah.
just for the sake of,
I know I'm a little bit passionate about it, and so I'm all over the place.
But you're putting a call to action to the commission to start a subcommittee.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So, I think, of course, Mr. Jones isn't here, but if we wanna just think about who, if you're willing to sit on a subcommittee, and then maybe share your name with me.
Yeah, so my recommendation would be after the chief and Deborah give their presentation, y'all are able to ask whatever questions and kind of get a better vision of what exactly you want that subcommittee to do. I think taking that action step would make the most sense, either during the August meeting or after the August meeting. But yes, absolutely think about if that's something you'd like to do.
Ms. Betty? Oh,
I was gonna suggest, yeah, if we weren't gonna form a subcommittee now, could we just do a working group? And if Tanya wants to continue to meet and organize ideas, I think that's helpful for this commission.
Absolutely, I appreciate that, thank you.
Do we need to take a vote on a working group? If we wanna get started,
If it's new business,
new business, yes.
The formation of the group itself, you would need to go ahead and take a vote. You don't need to take a vote for the members to agree to be on it or to assign certain members to it.
So I'd just like to open it up to, kind of go into a motion to agree.
So I'll make a motion that we establish a working group on policing, led by Tanya.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we'll be starting a work group, and just think about who wants to sit on that and help support Tanya and Patrick and anybody else. So Ms. Betty did have something, and then, Dolores also, and this pertains to her business, correct?
Yes, one point about what Tanya was talking about. I've always talked and encouraged police officer training to include trauma training. Police officers are traumatized, and they need to know how to react, how to handle their trauma, so trauma training is part. And I'm searching for a word, I need help with a word. What's the word for moving forward instead of the word moving forward? Instead of being, people use sustainable. And I don't like sustainable. Because sustainable to me means it's just gonna be just like on one track, and I want a word for upward mobility besides the word upward. But if you think of that, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody says sustainable, no, we don't want it to be the same. We want it to, things to go upward and improve. Improve. I know, but you said, okay, that's just.
That was you. So what I'm also hearing Ms. Betty say is just think in terms of having a shared language as a Human Relations Commission, and then not being so traditional with some of the things that, you know, society has kind of placed upon our cities.
You talked about trauma. There's a philosophy we talked about when we made a recommendation. 21st Century Policing has whole segments on trauma and care for police officers, as well as community policing. So that was a concept that was sort of rejected by the local Asheville Police Department. But this is part of President Obama's. That's when it was really out there. We've been working this along. So maybe with the next election, we may have some more, reach some federal funding. So please Google that and kind of, because that is where all of this, it's a recommendation, written consent is part of that also.
Thank you. And now, before we adjourn,
I would like to propose to the board that since we're having so many interrelated issues also with CPAC and, the Citizens Police Advisory, I would suggest that it would be maybe a good idea to have a liaison from our board go to all CPAC meetings. The liaison from CPAC come to all of our meetings, and those two liaisons show up to the public safety meetings. And the reason why I'm saying that is because right now, because we're the Human Relations Commission, and policing has become such a hot topic issue within the city, and it has been an equity issue in this community for a very long time. I feel like moving forward, because there has been a conversation on the table for some time about CPAC. At first, they were gonna try to pull CPAC into our board. And I could understand why they would do it at the time, because they felt like we were gonna be taking on the onus of the public commentary that CPAC was having about some of the issues that they had. But when I go to the CPAC meetings, I do notice that a lot of the issues that they're speaking about actually come across our table. So I think it might be beneficial to our board to have these discussions that are going on within CPAC, within our own board, so that we are not both crossing each other's thresholds. to where we also know that because policing is a part of equity, and that's one of the few boards that are in the city outside of like housing boards. But I believe that we need to have a liaison maybe from our boards to go to some of these more important boards, especially boards that determine the outcome of minority individuals in our community, so that we can bring that information back to our board, so that we can know what these other boards are doing to project equity within their own situations. You know, we won't ever know how somebody else operates until we step into their house. And so, you know, we have a lot of because our board is kind of like the circle effect of all these other boards in the city. I think it might be a good idea for us to sit down over time and discuss how we can be able to have someone go in and listen to those meetings, and then we can bring that information back here so that we're not, because sometimes we might waste time by going over the same situation with 3 or 4 different boards. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's on the same page. So I think that might be a great idea to help reduce, and that would be a great idea so that these boards, we can work together with other boards to go before council and make recommendations. You know, I believe it'd be, you know, numbers can mean a lot, and especially when you have boards that are working together that say, hey, look, you know, this board has been coming over here, and we've heard them, and we agree with them, and we're here to offer support with their initiative, and these boards will also give support to our initiatives. I think it would make going down the line a really big impact. So I like for our board to think about doing that over the long haul.
Okay, so we'll definitely be thinking about that. So at this time, we're gonna, I wanna just open it up so that we can adjourn the meeting. Can I have a motion?
I motion to adjourn.
Second.